Good morning, everyone. Sometimes I wonder what it would feel like if time and space didn't behave the way we expect. Imagine waking up one day and your clock says it's tomorrow, but your calendar insists it's yesterday. Or imagine stepping out your front door, taking one step forward, and suddenly standing on the other side of the world. In a world where time and space are distorted, the rules we live by would be completely different. There would be no too late and no too far. Maybe I could see the stars up close like sparkling diamonds right outside my window. Maybe a friend who lives miles away could appear right beside me in the blink of an eye. But it wouldn't all be fun. If time doesn't follow a straight line, how would we know when to celebrate birthdays? If space folds and bends, how would we find our way home? Things we take for granted, like memories, journeys, and even patience, might feel confusing or even impossible. Still, I think there's something beautiful about the idea. A distorted world reminds us that time and space are gifts. They give our lives rhythm and direction. They make moments precious because they don't last forever. They make distance meaningful because reaching someone takes effort. So even if we can't bend time or fold space, we can choose how we move through them. We can slow down for the people we love, stretch out our laughter, and make journeys worth taking. Thank you. In a world where time and space are distorted, the very foundation of how we understand life begins to shift beneath our feet. We are used to the clock ticking in one direction, 1 second after another, never pausing, never rewinding, never skipping ahead without warning. We are used to space being stable, with here being here and there being there, and distance having weight, shape, and length. But if those rules were no longer reliable, our sense of order, the way we measure our lives, our choices, and even our emotions, would change completely. Time and space are like invisible threads stitching the universe together, and when those threads twist or loosen, the fabric we live on can ripple and fold in ways that are both fascinating and frightening. Imagine if time did not move in a straight line. Instead of sunrise always following the night, it might appear before evening has even begun. What we think of as the past could reappear, not as a memory, but as an actual moment happening again in front of us. You might find yourself eating breakfast at the same table where, at the very same moment, you are already finishing dinner. In such a world, there would be no clear before and after. Events might overlap like colors running together in water, leaving us unsure of which moments are new and which ones are echoes. Without a dependable flow of time, we would lose the order that gives meaning to cause and effect. How could we learn from mistakes if the mistake and the lesson exist at once? How could we dream about the future if the future could suddenly step backward into yesterday? Now imagine space no longer behaving as we expect. The distance between 2 points might shrink into nothing or stretch into infinity without warning. Walking across your bedroom could take years, while stepping onto your porch could drop you into a faraway land. Streets and cities would not stay in the same place. A journey to school might lead you to a mountain peak, or a path to the park might unfold into the middle of the ocean. Landmarks, borders, and maps would lose their meaning. The order we rely on to navigate the world, knowing where we stand and how far we must go, would vanish. Every step would be unpredictable, every direction a mystery. With time and space distorted, the routines that keep us steady would no longer anchor us. Birthdays would not follow one another in the neat sequence of years. One person could celebrate turning 10, then 8, then 12, all in the same afternoon. Seasons might collide. Snowflakes falling in the heat of summer, flowers blooming in the depths of winter. The patterns that give us comfort, that help us prepare and plan, would blur until they became meaningless. Order as we know it would dissolve, replaced by a chaos that defies our ability to measure, predict, or control. This loss of order would not just be confusing for schedules or maps. It would strike at the heart of how we understand ourselves. Our identities are shaped by time, who we were, who we are now, who we hope to become. They are shaped by space, the neighborhoods we grow up in, the rooms that feel like home, the places where memories are kept. If those structures shift and overlap without warning, then our identities could feel as uncertain as the world around us. A child could meet her future self, standing in the same distorted moment, both younger and older, both beginning and ending. A traveler could find her hometown folded inside a distant city, unable to tell which place is truly her own. The order of time and space is not just an outside framework. It is the stage where our stories unfold, and without it, the stories themselves might unravel. Yet even in that distortion, there is something to wonder about. If we could stand in yesterday and tomorrow at once, maybe we would understand how fragile and precious every second is. If we could collapse all distances into a single step, maybe we would realize that closeness is not only about space, but about connection. Still, without order, we would be forced to face a truth that often hides beneath our routines. Time and space do not just organize our days. They shape the way we think, love, remember, and dream. They are the silent background to everything we do, and when they bend or break, the familiar world dissolves into something unrecognizable. A world without the limits of too late or too far would unfold like a dream that refuses to end, a place where the boundaries that hold us back vanish into thin air. Time, as we know it, constantly reminds us of what has passed and what cannot be recovered. Space, as we know it, often stretches wide between people, separating us by miles, oceans, and unreachable horizons. But imagine both of these barriers bending, breaking, and dissolving until they no longer matter. Suddenly, the things that once felt impossible would be right within reach, and the world would shimmer with possibilities too large for the ordinary mind to contain. If there were no such thing as too late, life would feel endlessly open. A mischance would no longer sting, because chances would circle back again and again. You could tell a story to someone you lost years ago, and they would hear it as if no time had passed at all. Regret would lose its sharp edges, because the clock would not be a chain dragging you forward without pause. You could try, fail, and try again without worrying that the days are slipping away. The very idea of aging would transform. Birthdays would not mark the distance from youth to old age. They would simply be moments, floating in a stream that has no final destination. Every moment would be both now and later, both beginning and continuation. The urgency that pushes us to rush, to chase, to fear the ticking of the second hand would dissolve, leaving us in a rhythm of timeless wonder. And if there were no such thing as too far, distance would stop being an obstacle. A friend who lives on the other side of the world would be as close as the neighbor next door. You could step into a doorway and find yourself beneath another sky, standing in a place you've always dreamed of seeing. The ache of separation, the heavy wait for journeys to end, the long roads and endless oceans would all fold into nothing. Space would no longer measure closeness or connection. Loved ones would never truly be apart, because there would be no gap for separation to grow. Exploration itself would become effortless, not bound by borders, maps, or travel times. You could wander through galaxies as easily as you stroll through a garden, folding vast distances into a single breath. Together, the absence of too late and too far would weave a reality glowing with wonder. A painter could show her masterpiece not only to her children, but to her ancestors and watch their reactions sparkle across centuries. A child could visit the pyramids as they were first built, then return home before dinner, carrying dust on her shoes from thousands of years ago. A student who forgot to study would never be punished by the clock, because she could stretch the moment as wide as she wished until she learned every answer. A family separated by continents could share a meal around the same table, the miles erased by a single fold in space. Life would be a constant unfolding of miracles, because nothing would be permanently out of reach. But such a world would also be strange in its very wonder. Without lateness, how would we treasure the moments we manage to catch just in time? Without distance, how would we appreciate the journeys that bring us closer together, the very obstacles that shape our stories, the goodbyes that hurt, the arrivals that feel triumphant, the opportunities that slip through our fingers, would all vanish. What remains would be a canvas where everything is always possible, where nothing is ever lost, and where the concepts of waiting, longing, or missing are erased. It would be dazzling, limitless, a place of pure freedom. Yet it would also force us to redefine what it means to value a moment, to hold on to it, and to give it meaning. In a world without too late or too far, wonder would not be found in chasing what we cannot reach, but in realizing that everything is already within reach, waiting to be embraced in the blink of an eye. If distortions in time and space blurred the clarity of memories, journeys, and celebrations, the rhythm of life would become tangled, like threads knotted together with no clear beginning or end. Memories are usually the treasures we keep, arranged in order so we can look back and understand where we have been. Journeys are the paths we take, measured by steps and miles, giving us a sense of progress and accomplishment. Celebrations are markers on the timeline, glowing moments that tell us we have reached a milestone worth honoring. But when time folds in on itself and space stretches or collapses without pattern, these elements that give shape to our lives would lose their sharpness, leaving us drifting in a haze of overlapping experiences. Memories would no longer rest in the past where they belong. Instead, they could rise up in the present, not as shadows in our thoughts, but as vivid events happening again before our eyes. A child might see her 5th birthday unfold in the middle of her 12th year, balloons and cake appearing in the same room where her school books are scattered. A grandmother might watch herself holding her newborn child, even as she sits beside her grown grandchildren. The order that helps us sort our memories into chapters would break apart, turning the story of life into pages shuffled randomly. Instead of remembering what was, people might live in a constant stream of relived experiences, unable to tell which moments are finished and which are still unfolding. The warmth of nostalgia could turn confusing because every memory would feel as real and present as today. Journeys, too, would blur under these distortions. Normally, a journey has a clear path. We start in one place, we move forward step by step, and eventually we arrive somewhere new. The distance we travel and the effort we make give weight to the arrival, filling it with meaning. But if space itself twists and folds, journeys would lose that structure. A single step might carry someone across continents, while 1,000 steps might keep them circling the same patch of ground endlessly. Roads might stretch into impossible lengths or shrink into doorways that open into faraway lands. The excitement of traveling, the sense of anticipation that builds with each mile, could vanish if destinations appear instantly or remain unreachable no matter how hard one tries. The meaning of movement would fade, leaving travelers uncertain whether they have gone anywhere at all. Journeys would not be about distance, but about randomness, with no way to predict how far one is from where they wish to be. Celebrations, the bright markers of time, would blur until their significance became uncertain. Birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, and holidays are powerful because they come at the right moment, after days and years have been lived. They remind us of growth, of love, of endurance, and of change. But in a distorted world, a birthday could arrive 3 times in a week, or skip over entirely. An anniversary could fall before the wedding itself, and a holiday might vanish into a jumble of seasons colliding together. Candles could be blown out in the same breath as they are lit, and the joy of waiting for a special day would disappear if days could be shuffled at random. Without the steady march of time, celebrations would lose their meaning as milestones and instead become scattered sparks appearing without pattern or order. The blur of memories, journeys, and celebrations would make life feel both magical and disorienting. Magical because moments would never be truly lost. Every memory could be revisited as if it were happening again. Journeys would hold surprises at every step, with destinations appearing like wonders just beyond a doorway. Celebrations could arrive at unexpected times, filling ordinary days with sudden bursts of joy. Yet disorienting, because without the order of before and after, near and far, soon and later, We would lose the anchors that tell us who we are, where we have been, and what we have achieved. The past, the present, and the future would fold into one another until they became indistinguishable, leaving us adrift in a world where everything happens but nothing truly arrives. Time and space are not just silent backgrounds to our existence. They are gifts that give rhythm and meaning to everything we do. Time shapes the sequence of our lives, allowing moments to flow one after another in a way that tells a story. Space provides the stage on which these stories unfold, creating the sense of here and there, near and far, presence and absence. Without these structures, life would be a blur of events with no beginning and no end. But with them, we are able to find patterns, appreciate change, and understand the significance of each moment. They are not simply measurements, they are the foundations of meaning itself. Time is a gift because it allows us to recognize growth and change. A child becomes taller, stronger, and wiser only because time passes and marks the transformation. Each day leads into another, each season into the next, and this rhythm gives us perspective on how far we have come. Without the passing of time, we could never appreciate progress because everything would remain static. Even waiting, as frustrating as it can be, is part of the gift. Waiting allows excitement to build before a long-waited event. It gives us the chance to anticipate, to hope, to prepare. The joy of reaching a goal is deepened because of the time it took to get there. Time makes fleeting moments precious precisely because we cannot hold onto them forever. The laughter of a friend, the light of a sunset, the words of a loved one become meaningful because they will not last unchanged, and we learn to treasure them while they are here. Space is a gift in its own way. It allows us to create bonds across distance, to value presence and connection. The space between two people makes closeness matter. When we travel across miles to see someone, that distance adds weight to the reunion. Space also provides diversity, shaping the world into landscapes, homes, and places that hold our memories. A hometown has meaning because it is a specific space, different from everywhere else, tied to our experiences. Journeys gain importance because they move us from one space to another, allowing us to discover and to grow. Without space, everything would collapse into sameness, and we would lose the richness that comes from exploring and belonging to particular places. The gift of space is that it challenges us to reach across distances, to build bridges, and to recognize that effort deepens connection. Together, time and space give life its rhythm, a rhythm that allows us to dance between moments and places in a way that feels purposeful. Birthdays, for example, are not just days on a calendar but reminders of the years that have passed, the growth that has happened, and the journey that still lies ahead. The rhythm of time makes each birthday meaningful. A journey to a faraway place is not only about arriving, but about the effort of crossing space to reach it. The rhythm of space makes the destination valuable. Celebrations, memories, and milestones only matter because time and space hold them in place, showing us where they belong in the greater story of our lives. Without recognizing them as gifts, we risk treating time and space as burdens. People often complain about not having enough time or about distances being too wide, but these very limitations are what make life beautiful. If time were endless and moments never slipped away, we might never feel the urgency to love, to act, to appreciate. If space held no separation, closeness would lose its sweetness, because nothing would ever feel far enough away to make reunion meaningful. Their limits are what give meaning to our choices and our connections. They frame the joy of being alive, guiding us to notice how every step, every hour, every mile adds to the rhythm of existence. Time and space may seem like invisible forces, but they are constantly shaping our lives in quiet, powerful ways. They turn ordinary moments into memories, journeys into stories, and milestones into celebrations that glow brightly against the passage of days and the stretch of miles. They give us not only structure but depth, not only order but significance. They are gifts that remind us that every moment matters because it belongs somewhere in the flow of time, and every place matters because it holds part of who we are in the vastness of space. We can choose to slow down, stretch joy, and value effort, even in a world where everything feels rushed and distances often seem overwhelming. Slowing down is not just about moving at a gentler pace. It is about giving attention to the moments that slip past when we hurry. Time, when seen as something to be filled quickly, loses its richness, but when we decide to slow down, we begin to notice the details that make life beautiful. The sound of footsteps on a quiet path, the way sunlight filters through the leaves, the small gestures of kindness from people around us. All of these can be overlooked when we race through our days. Slowing down is a conscious act of resistance against the pressure to move faster, to achieve more, to always look ahead instead of appreciating what is right here. Stretching joy is another choice we can make. Joy is often fleeting, arriving in sudden bursts and fading just as quickly. But when we stretch joy, we hold on to it with intention, allowing it to expand and fill more space in our lives. A moment of laughter with friends does not have to end when the laughter fades. It can be carried forward in our thoughts, retold in stories, cherished in memory. A small success does not need to vanish in the shadow of the next challenge. It can be celebrated fully, savored for the effort that made it possible. Stretching joy means refusing to let happiness slip away unnoticed. It means taking time to honor the moments of light that make all the darker days worth enduring. By stretching joy, we create a life that feels fuller, where happiness is not a rare spark, but a constant thread woven into our days. Valuing effort is perhaps the most important of these choices. In a culture that often celebrates only the results, effort can seem invisible, but it is effort that gives true meaning to our achievements. When someone climbs a mountain, the view at the top is breathtaking, but it is the climb, the sweat, the struggle, the determination, that makes the view worth seeing. When a student studies for hours, the good grade is rewarding, but it is the persistence and focus that carry the deeper lesson. Valuing effort means respecting the process, not just the outcome. It means recognizing that even when results do not meet our hopes, the energy and courage we put in still matter. Effort shapes us, teaches us resilience, and prepares us for everything that lies ahead. These choices, slowing down, stretching joy, valuing effort, are not forced upon us by time or space, but they are ways we can move within them. They allow us to make meaning in a world that often feels too hurried and too focused on destinations. Slowing down gives us the chance to connect with the present. Stretching joy gives us the power to hold on to happiness. And valuing effort reminds us that the journey itself is just as important as the arrival. Together, they create a way of living that honors the rhythm of time and the vastness of space without being consumed by them. Choosing to slow down also deepens our connections with others. When we are not rushing, we listen more carefully, we notice more fully, and we give the people around us the gift of our attention. Relationships thrive not on speed, but on presence. Stretching joy also brings people closer, because shared joy creates bonds that last long after the moment has passed. When we celebrate together, when we retell stories of happiness, when we let joy echo beyond its first spark, we weave stronger ties with those we love. Valuing effort, too, strengthens relationships because it helps us see not only what others achieve but the work they put in. It allows us to honor their dedication, to respect their struggles, and to celebrate their persistence, even when the outcome is not perfect. Life, with all its unpredictability, can feel like it pulls us forward too quickly and stretches us across distances too wide. But within this flow, we always have choices. The decision to slow down, the practice of stretching joy, the habit of valuing effort, these are ways to reclaim meaning from the rush and the distance. They do not change the passing of time or the size of space, but they change the way we experience both. They turn the ordinary into something extraordinary, filling our days with presence, with light, and with a deeper sense of worth.